Ready, Kevin? All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the first public meeting of the Halton District School Board for the 2022-2023 academic year. The date is September the 7th, 2022. As we are in an evolving era, we are happy to be able to be back in person. But saying that, we would also like the public to know that you are welcome, if you choose, to come and watch our board meetings here at the board. So start moving forward. If anyone out there who's watching us online would like to join us in the boardroom, you are more than welcome to do so. It's so wonderful to see so many faces back at the board table. And it's also so wonderful to now have the tools to allow us to be flexible in our approach. Although many of us are here, we have also been able to work with those who are unable to be with us in person. This flexibility allows us to use a hybrid approach for this board meeting, allowing people the flexibility to attend either online or in person. As we head into this new school year, conversations and respectful debates are hallmarks of our board. With many new faces at the table, it's so important that we continue to follow our meeting rules of the road to guide us through our meetings. So we will start with a roll call. Trustee Amos.
Good evening, everyone.
Hi. Trustee Collard.
Good evening, everyone.
Trustee Daniele.
Thank you, I am here.
Vice Chair Harrison.
Hello.
Trustee Garretts.
Great to be here.
Trustee Gray.
Hello.
Trustee Grabens.
Hello, everyone.
Trustee Oliver.
Good evening, everyone.
Trustee Reynolds.
Present.
Trustee Rocha.
Good evening.
Trustee-elect. Student trustee-elect. Ruggiero. Did I get it? Ruggiero. I got it. Present. I'm in my head rhyming. Ferrero Ruggiero. And student trustee-elect Wang. Great. Thank you very much. Director Ennis, can you please note the staff which are attending this evening?
Thank you very much, Chair Shuttleworth. We have a full complement of staff here to support the meeting this evening.
Thank you very much. Tonight, I will be honoring the land. Halton, as we know it today, is rich in history and modern tradition of many First Nations and the Métis. From the Anishinaabe to the Attawandaron, the Haudenosaunee and the Métis, these lands surrounding the Great Lakes are steeped in Indigenous history. As we gather here today on these treaty lands, we have the responsibility to honor and respect the four directions: land, water, plants, and animals, ancestors that walked before us, and all the wonderful elements of creation that exist. We would also like to thank and acknowledge the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation for sharing their traditional territory with us. So the first meeting of the month is designated for a time to formally acknowledge the History and Heritage Months as identified by the Government of Ontario. Now, although there are no months of significance for September, there are some pretty important days of significance that occur during this month. For example, today, September 7th, is Ukrainian Heritage Day. And within the climate that we're in, I thought it was quite important to give you a little bit of information about that. So the first official Ukrainian immigrants, Vasil Elniak and Ivan Pylepiu, excuse me if my pronunciation is wrong, arrived in Canada on September 7th, 1891. Soon afterwards, Ukrainian immigrants began arriving in Ontario in larger numbers, and today Ontario is home to more than 336,000 Ukrainian Canadians. There are 1.2 million Canadians of Ukrainian descent across the country. Many Ukrainians fled their homeland to find freedom from oppression and a better life in Canada. Recently, millions of Ukrainians have been displaced, and the Halton region continues to welcome Ukrainian newcomers to our community. Ukrainian Canadians have played an important role in the development of Ontario into one of the most desirable places in the world to live, and have contributed to making Canada the great country it is today. With this day of significance, it is wonderful to be able to reinforce the message that the Halton District School Board stands with Ukraine and is grateful for the contributions Ukrainian Canadians have made to our country. Thank you. Next, we are up to our agenda. Trustee Gray, would you like to make a motion to approve the agenda?
Yes, I would.
Thank you so much. And Trustee Grevens, would you like to second that motion?
Absolutely.
Awesome. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, as there are no objections to approve the agenda, I will approve it by unanimous consent. Next up, just checking on if there are any conflicts of possible interest. Do we have any of those this evening? Wonderful. We're now up to item 2.0, which is delegations and presentations to the board. Being the first meeting of the year, we do not yet have any Inspire Awards to present, but all of you out there, please remember to continue to nominate people within the Halton District School Board community for Inspire Awards. Find inspiring individuals and nominate them so they can be recognized for their outstanding contributions. Nomination information, as always, can be found on the HDSB website. We have no delegations this evening, but we do have one pretty important presentation. Tonight, among the new faces at the board are our newly elected student trustees, Ethan Ruggiero and Cindy Wang, and they will now take the oath of office. And I'm going to hand it over to Director Ennis to lead the ceremony.
Thank you very much, Chair Shuttleworth. Good evening, everyone. It is my honor and privilege to present our next two student trustees for the school year 2022-2023. Both students are very excited and they're ready to go. Each of our incumbent student trustees are joining the board for their first term. We have Ethan Ruggiero from Dr. Frank J. Hayden Secondary School and Cindy Wang from Oakville Trafalgar High School. Both students are in their grade 12 year and are looking forward to working collaboratively with all of us in this room so that we can hear from student voices across the HDSB. We have an oath of office that each student trustee must take at this time, and at this time I'm going to invite student trustee Ethan Ruggiero to take the floor to read his oath. Please join me, Ethan.
And guests at the back, please feel free to move up as close as you like to take some good pictures. Yeah.
I, Ethan Ruggiero, do solemnly declare that in accordance with the Education Act, related legislation, and the Halton District School Board policies and procedures, I will truly, faithfully, and impartially do the best of my ability to execute the office of the student trustee. And in my role as student trustee, I will comply with the Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection and Privacy Act and the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act, recognizing the importance of maintaining confidentiality of the board with regard to any matters that are dealt with in a closed session, and declare not to divulge any information of the contents of any material shared with trustees in closed meetings, whether or not I am present and or participating in the closed meetings, and that I am not disqualified under any requirement from being a student trustee, member of the Halton District School Board. Declared before me at Burlington in the regional municipality of Halton on the 7th day of September, 2022.
Thank you very much, Ethan. These are very serious words you just read. Thank you. I'm going to just ask you, Ethan, just wait for me 1 second, and I'm going to ask Cindy to come forward at this time. Cindy, please come.
I, Cindy Wang, do solemnly declare that in accordance with the Education Act, related legislation, and Halton District School Board policy procedures, I will truly, faithfully, impartially, and to the best of my ability, execute the office of student trustee. And in my role as student trustee, I will comply with the Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act and the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act, recognizing the importance maintaining the confidentiality of the board with regard to matters that are dealt with in closed session, and declare not to divulge any information of the contents of any material shared with trustees in closed meetings, whether or not I am present and or participating in the closed meetings, and that I am not disqualified under any requirement from being a student trustee member of the Halton District School Board, declared before me at Burlington in the regional municipality of Halton on the 7th day of September 2022.
Well, we're going to have a signing. So play some music for us, please, Cindy. Okay, wonderful. All right. And so you can just hold your oath as we take some pictures. So trustees and staff, would you please join me in welcoming Student Trustee Ruggiero and Student Trustee Wang. Trustee Ruggiero and Trustee Wang, we look forward to working with you, and we know it's going to be a wonderful 2022-23 working with you. Thank you. Okay, picture. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great, and thank you so much. On behalf of all the trustees here, Trustee Ruggiero and Trustee Wang, welcome to our board. Okay, we are now up to items 3 and 4, which is the consent agenda for approval and information, which include 3 items tonight: the Halton District School Board minutes from June 15th, the order paper, and the board report schedule, report number 22092. I'm going to put the motion on the floor, which is, be it resolved that the Halton District School Board approve the consent agenda for approval and receive the information items for September the 7th, 2022. Trustee Reynolds, would you like to move a motion to deal with the consent agenda?
Thank you for asking. Yes.
And Trustee Oliver, would you like to second that?
I'll second that.
All right. Are there any items that need to be pulled from this list? Seeing none, are there any objections to approving the consent agenda? Great, and seeing none, by unanimous consent, that is moved. We're zipping through tonight. Item 5.0, which is the student trustee report. Trustee Ruggiero and Trustee Wang, very early in the game, do you have a report for us this evening?
Yes, Chair Shuttleworth, thank you. Well, good evening, everyone, trustees, staff, students, and parents. As the school year is upon us, Trustee Wang and I would like to formally introduce ourselves to the board. My name is Ethan Ruggiero, and I'm honored to be representing Student Voice at the board table and humbled to be the first student trustee from Dr. Frank J. Hayden Secondary School.
Hello, everyone. I hope you've all had a great day so far. My name is Cindy Wang, and I'm thrilled to be serving as a student trustee for this school year alongside Trustee Ruggiero. I'm a grade 12 student at Oakville Trafalgar High School, and I'm beyond honored to be wrapping up my high school experience by representing my peers at the board table.
We would like to begin by thanking staff for their kind welcome tonight, everyone who has helped us transition into our roles, and of course, the students who have entrusted Trustee Wang and I to represent them for this upcoming year. The last time Trustee Ruggiero and I were in this boardroom was to watch the final Board of Trustees meetings last school year in June. Since then, we have been diligently preparing for our upcoming term as student trustees, and we'll be sharing our progress with you all today. Over the summer, we worked with our outgoing student trustees, Vigilant, Cara, and Bao, to continue their foundational work upon Senate. Notably, we met with the co-chairs of the Mental Health and Wellbeing Subcommittee to discuss their work to raise student perspectives on the state of mental health in the HDSB. Following this meeting, Trustee Wang and I are looking to table a Student Senate motion to encapsulate student concerns and solutions for further discussion in the school year. Just today, we met with the lead staff member for mental health and support services about our approach for this project before the Senate begins in October. Speaking about Student Senate, Trustee Wang and I met with the Student Senate staff advisors and Associate Director Salmini last week about the organization of Student Senate, in which we discussed a wide array of topics. The question on everyone's mind was, how is Senate going to look this year? Well, with student engagement at an all-time high due to the ease of access of online meetings, we're exploring rotating meeting locations between online, the Milton School Learning Center, and the JW Singleton Education Center, helping to connect some of our most northern students who wouldn't have been able to attend in-person meeting. This will provide a more centralized location for students while also improving accessibility for students across the region. Communication was also a discussion point, highlighting the letter to principals in which outlines the Student Senate selection process, student commitments, and opportunities a student senator has. We are looking to launch our subcommittees and executive team early on this year to maximize our time and action while expanding our opportunities for non-senators to get involved. We encourage student senators and students who are watching right now to check out the Student Senate Instagram for more information and check out the website. Trustee Wang and I also introduced our themes and agenda items for the upcoming year over a wide array of topics. From equity and inclusion to human rights and the environment, we are looking to invite a plethora of guest speakers, some who may be in this room, I'm looking around here, to share their expertise and to inspire our senators. Touching upon guest speakers, I and members of the Student Senate had a wonderful opportunity to speak at this year's HDSB Leadership Conference. Students highlighted the future of education in our board, encouraging administrators to think outside the box and bring the vision of tomorrow into their schools and classrooms. I would like to pass it over to Trustee Wang to update the board on our student trustee development. Thank you.
Thank you. August was a busy time for Trustee Ruggiero and I as we prepared for our student trustee roles. The moment we officially began our term on August 1st, we were super eager to familiarize ourselves with this position and the responsibilities it carries, as you can tell from this pretty lengthy report. To start, we focused a lot on the organization of Student Senate this year, which Trustee Ruggiero already touched upon earlier. Every year, student trustees send a letter to students asking for students to join the Student Senate. We are currently in the works of creating and filming an introduction video with our communications team to go out to students alongside the letter. Our aim is to familiarize students with their new student trustees for this school year, explain what the Student Senate is, and introduce our updated selection guidelines, which we'll be sharing with you later, and also introduce our upcoming Student Equity Committee. As two new student trustees, Trustee Ruggiero and I also introduced ourselves by email to our superintendents of education this year. We welcomed them to their positions, and as students who represent Student Voice, we expressed our support for their crucial work. On August 24th, we met with our trustee mentors, Trustee Oliver and Trustee Reynolds, who guided us through a boardroom orientation that helped enable Trustee Ruggiero and I to become comfortable with what we were to expect as student trustees. They provided helpful resources about our board, explained to us what a board meeting will look like, which is why we are able to confidently speak to you today. And they also answered our pressing questions, which, believe me, there were a lot. It's with their endless help that Trustee Ruggiero and I are able to confidently speak to you all today, as I mentioned earlier, and we thank our trustee mentors with the support they've already provided us this past month. During this orientation, we were also introduced to Director Ennis and Associate Director Salmini. With their encouragement, Trustee Ruggiero and I met with them the following week to share with them our future plans and goals as student trustees. We covered areas from equity to mental health to arts and culture, and we're delighted to be able to share these goals with you all today. We received wonderful feedback and advice from Director Ennis and Associate Director Salmini that has enabled us to already get started on some of our goals, and we thank them so much for their guidance. I will pass it back to Trustee Ruggiero to introduce our plans and goals for this school year.
As the launch of Student Senate is just around the corner, Trustee Wang and I are introducing the HDSB Student Senate Selection Guide to provide the first step towards a standardized Student Senate application process for all students. In the past, the process to select student senators varied depending on school and the administrator, which can create inequities in our board. These documents have a focus on the application process, ensuring that both students and administrators have a voice in selecting their senator. We encourage administrators to look beyond the traditional criteria of considering a candidate's academic ability and school involvement, but focus on a student's lived experience first and foremost. Trustee Wang and I look forward to introducing this process at the upcoming family of school meetings to gather their feedback and suggestions.
Alongside these guidelines, principals will be contacted shortly about senator recruitment. We'll be sending a letter to students as well, calling for students to join Senate. If any student is seeking this opportunity, they should contact their school principal or administration to learn what their school's process for senator selection looks like and what the next steps will be for them. We will also have any Senate-related news and updates on our Senate's Instagram at HCSB Student Senate. Trustee Roger and I will send a welcome package to our student senators as they enter Senate so that they can receive information as soon as possible. Lastly, following the passing of the motion last year, Trustee Roger and I are so excited to lead the HCSB's Student Equity Committee into its first year of operation. This committee will enable students to engage in solution-oriented dialogue on inequities that impact the student experience. This month, we hope to have this committee plan out how meetings will operate, how the selection process will work, and any other necessary details.
In terms of our overall goals, our climate goals are very important to Cindy and I, to Trustee Wang and I, pardon me. As we look into the upcoming term, the goals of the student trustees are to focus on tackling climate change initiatives and to rally our students towards actionable and measurable goals. Moreover, we aim towards looking to the past, present, and future of arts and culture and initiatives in our board to support creative learning outside the traditional classroom. In terms of equity, we plan to work with staff and students to discuss the evolving role of police in our schools, and as we see an increase of vandalism and hate.
Furthermore, we plan to work with our board to look deeper into current policies related to sexual harassment. On the mental health aspect, we want to develop and pass a mental health motion through Senate that we can bring to the board hopefully later this year. We're also in talks to meet with more mental health teams to provide more guidance on what we're hoping to do with this motion. Lastly, we will be continuing to support Student Senate's previous plans for learning and achievement, such as our pathways panels and opportunity databases that began last year in our subcommittees.
As we enter this school year, we believe that our goals align with the HTSB's multi-year strategic plan and considers the school's climate. We welcome anyone to provide any insight or questions they may have.
Our overarching goal as student trustees is to represent and advocate on behalf of such a diverse group of students as authentically as possible. We thank you all for your support so far and look forward to the year ahead. We are happy to answer any questions or comments.
Thank you so much. Trustees, does anybody have any questions for our students? Trustee Gray.
Thank you very much, through the chair, to our student trustees. I just want to congratulate you on your approach to facilitate and grow regional involvement in the Student Senate. Your plans to rotate north, south, online, in person is a very, very positive direction, and I look forward to seeing improvements in the representation that we have right across the board. So thank you so much for taking that into account. I'm so excited to hear all of your plans for this year. It's going to be just an amazing year. It's already off to a great start. Thank you so very much.
Yes? Would you like to answer?
Through the chair to Trustee Gray, thank you for that. It was really important that Cindy and I consider, or Trustee Wang and I, consider students all across the board. It was something that we've learned from Trustee Vigilankara and Bao about the various inequities students face. So it's important that we consider students, no matter where they are, they can have their voices heard at the discussion table. So thank you, Trustee Gray.
Vice Chair Al Harrison.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. Thank you very much for this report. I'm really interested in what you said around trying to encourage students with lived experience to become senators and working with administrators to encourage that process. And I just wonder how you see that going specifically, and then whether there are any other opportunities as the year progresses for people who, with those lived experiences, who may not eventually become senators to become involved in committees. I can't remember how it went last year, whether people from the broader student body also had opportunities.
Through the chair to Vice Chair Errol Harrison. Thank you for that. When Cindy and I are looking about standardizing the process for student senators, it's really about that first step. And that first step is considering students, and students have lived experiences. And what we mean by that is that we're looking to increase and broaden how we select our senators in the board. And really, we're taking this document, which will be introduced to administrators and staff, to the Student Senate and to the administrators to gather their feedback, and to really build a strong and comprehensive plan so it can be standardized across the board. And as far as opportunities for students with lived experiences, we have a wonderful opportunity to continue the process of allowing student senators and non-student senators to join our subcommittees, whether that be the mental health, learning and achievement, and the wide array that follow with our strategic plan, to become involved. And we think it shouldn't be limited just to senators to share your voice. No matter where you are, how old you are, student voice is very impactful and very powerful, as we see here today. And so we encourage students to reach out, to stay connected through the HDSB Instagram and the HDSB Student Senate Instagram for more opportunities that we'll provide for them. So thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Oh, Trustee Garretts.
Thank you, through you, to the student trustees. Just to piggyback on your criteria or your new way of selecting student senators, are the document that you're going to be sharing with admin, et cetera, are we going to get a chance to see it as well?
Through the chair to Trustee Garrett, we're hoping that once it's approved by admin and once we're happy with the document, that we'll be sharing it hopefully at the next Board of Trustees meetings. And then, yeah.
Trustee Ruggiero?
Yeah, through the chair to Trustee Garrett, Cindy makes a great point. We want to make sure that trustees and their constituents are involved in the process. It's important that the students that are in their schools have a voice and have a say in how they're elected and how they're selected. Really, this document is the first step to standardize the process, and we hope to formalize it through the Student Senate so we actually get the senators' perspectives and the administrators rather than just Cindy and I's initial thoughts. So it's really in the first stages. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? I do have one. So at the leadership conference, this kind of combines a lot of the questions that came before. You had the students come in, I guess they were student senators from previous years, and they spoke of their lived experience. I thought it was just amazing, the power that was behind the stories that they told. I'm wondering, with those stories that were brought forward to the staff and the trustees, do you have any plans to use those to catapult ideas moving forward?
Through the chair to Trustee Shuttleworth. That's an excellent point. It was super engaging to be at the leadership conference, especially when we have students bring up their lived experiences. And that's something that we hope to even highlight, even through the application process, as what a student goes through every day at the Halton District School Board and in their past really brings out who they are as a person. And so really we hope that this is the first step to bringing these stories out and to highlighting our students of the board, to look past just academics, to look past the involvement. As many students can't get involved, it's challenging for them to, get to clubs and meetings and extracurriculars. So we hope this is kind of the first step in highlighting students' lived experiences in our board, and we're looking to bring that to Senate and to other initiatives at the HDSB. Thank you.
Through the chair to the chair, adding on to what Trustee Ruggiero just said, I think that that was a perfect example of why we are creating a document like this. I think that once you hear their stories and when you attend student senate meetings, you often hear that, oh, the student senator position, it seems so intimidating. It seems like if I don't meet those traditional criteria of I need to be really academically fulfilled, I need to have so many extracurriculars, I need to have so much leadership experience, that you just avoid that type of position, when in reality it's open to you so that you are able to share experiences and hopefully improve the student experience. And so with that being said, I think that having students share their stories like that and having them be able to speak at places like the leadership conference is what led them to be able to have their voices heard and their stories heard through a document like this. And hopefully in the future, we can expand that and make it more and more authentic.
Great, thank you, because I do think listening to those voices really did encapsulate the idea of how powerful and moving students can be. So I thought it was a great way to kick off the conference. And again, thank you so much for that. And thank you so much for your report. We really appreciate it and look forward to more in the future. Okay, we are now up to item 6.0, ratification or action items. And 6.1 is ratification of business transacted in private session. Vice Chair Harrison, do we have any business from private session that requires approval?
Thank you. No, we don't this evening.
All right, great. Thank you so much. That brings us up to action items for September the 7th, 2022. And the first two items that we have actually came to us back in June, and they are coming back to us again for the second reading. And the first one is the Indigenous Education Policy, revised report number 22088. Director Ennis and Superintendent Petco, would you like to speak to this?
Thank you. Through the chair, I'm going to ask Superintendent Petco to speak to this.
Good evening. Through the chair, Trustee Shuttleworth, to perhaps all the trustees in the room. As I understand, this policy, both the equity and inclusive education and Indigenous education, Indigenous rights and education policy were presented and put through back in June, presented by my predecessor, Rob Etoff. So today, as I understand, I'm not going to do a full presentation on this because I don't think that it is necessary unless there are some questions around this, because there aren't any new faces in terms of trustees. So at this stage, I think the question really is outside of the question we had earlier from Vice Chair Al Harrison around ensuring that we include a statement in there, understanding that engagement, consultation, and consent have to be part of this policy, and ensuring that all the good work that was done with our partners, and I look around the room, and I know that many of us, if not all of us, understand that we cannot do this work without our Indigenous partners. And so there was a statement requested, or a change, an edit requested for the Indigenous rights and education policy to ensure that we include a statement that if once this goes through, if there are any requests for changes from the legal department, that it has to be in consultation once again with our partners. So I think at this stage, Director Ennis, that really is the additional component for these policies. I don't think there were any questions or requests for changes to the equity inclusive education policy. So I look to you, Director Ennis, to see where next, or if there's anything else that possibly that I need to report on or add.
Thank you so much, Superintendent Petco. No, I wouldn't add anything to that. Thank you. Just open it up for any questions or comments.
Okay, so I'm going to read the motion, and then I'll open the floor for debate. Okay, so be it resolved that the Indigenous education policy be submitted for legal review and returned to the board for decision. This is the wrong one. I've got it here. Oh, no. Be it further resolved that any recommendation, be it resolved that the Indigenous education policy be submitted for legal review for compliance with the board's obligations under the Education Act. And be it further resolved that any recommended changes of a substantive nature will return to those who collaborated on the draft policy, after which time it will return to the board for consideration. Trustee Amos, would you like to move that motion?
Yes, I would. Thank you so much.
Wonderful, thank you. And Trustee Collard, would you like to second that?
Most wholeheartedly, yes. Thank you.
Wonderful. Does anybody have any questions concerning this motion? Vice Chair Harrison.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair, I am appreciative for the revisions to the motion. So any changes requested or suggested by in the legal review can then be vetted and or considered by those who collaborated on the draft policy in the first place. I think that's great. And I just wonder about timing, whether you know what that might look like. Sometimes we attach timing to motions, and my apologies for not flagging that earlier. I just wonder, do we have a lot of things in the queue right now, or maybe that's through you, Chair, to the Director, or
Thank you so much, Vice Chair Harrison. Certainly, upon the approval of the motion by trustees, we will expedite the consultation with the lawyers, and to the point that Superintendent Petco made, consult again with our partners to make sure that we are honoring their voice.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Okay, seeing none. If everyone can turn to their question and cast their vote, please.
In support.
Wonderful, and that is unanimous. That vote passes. Thank you very much. Sorry, Trustee Amos, do you concur, do you approve that motion?
I said in support.
Oh, sorry.
Did you not hear me?
We did not hear you. Sorry, but thank you very much. So that passes unanimously. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Don't go anywhere. Okay. Because it's your night tonight, we are now up to item 6.1.2, the Equity and Inclusive Education Policy. Again, Superintendent Petco. I'm going to pass it over to you and see if there's anything you'd like to say about it.
Thank you. Through the chair, Trustee Shuttleworth, to all the trustees. Once again, this was a policy that was brought forth last June through Robbie Etoff, and it was presented then. But I do think that it is important for me to just reiterate the priority and the significant importance of this policy that is going to be hopefully passed through tonight. There is a deep commitment from the Halton District School Board for equity, inclusion, and anti-oppressive approaches to all that we endeavor to support and serve our families and our students, and on all the networks of those who support our students and families. So that is really all I want to say tonight, because there aren't any other changes or requests for additions or any questions. So if it's all right, I'll be very brief around that and leave it at that. Okay.
Great, thank you very much. I'm going to read the motion and open the floor for debate. Be it resolved that the Equity and Inclusion Education Policy be submitted for legal review and returned to the board for decision upon completion of the review, with any changes recommended in the review being considered for incorporation in the documents. Trustee Garretts, would you like to move that motion?
Yes, I would. Thank you.
And Trustee Reynolds, would you like to second that?
Fully yes.
Wonderful, thank you. Are there any questions or debate? Seeing none, please cast your votes.
I'm in support.
Thank you, Trustee Amos. Thank you very much, and that carries unanimously. Thank you very much, Superintendent Petco.
Thank you.
Well done. All right, we are now on to item 6.1.3, the resolution for corporate credit card services amendment, report number 22095. Superintendent Nagoy, would you like to speak to this?
Yes, thank you. And for the chair to all trustees, we are currently looking at increasing the ability to procure through our corporate purchasing cards in a greater volume. So our current credit limit is at $1 million. So every month this is being repaid in terms of usage, and we are seeing more of an increase in transactions. This is a good news story because we are trying to utilize it for all the small dollar value purchases. It's more efficient. We have the proper controls in place. It also addresses some recommendations from an older audit, and we are getting a rebate. So it is good news, and we are seeing more volumes as we are returning back to regular year. And as such, we have seen the need to process more often the payments for the credit card provider as we see an increase in transactions. So we are here asking for trustees to approve a motion to increase the credit limit that we are able to have in a given month. From 1 million to 1.5, and I'd be happy to address any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will read the motion and then open the floor for debate. Be it resolved that the chair of the Halton District School Board and the superintendent of business services and treasurer are hereby authorized to sign the corporate card agreement with Bank of Montreal, BMO, to amend the corporate card credit limit to $1.5 million. Trustee Daniele, would you like to move that motion?
Yes, thank you, I would.
And Trustee Rocha, would you like to second that?
I would.
Thank you very much. Is there any debate? Trustee Grabetz.
Through you, Chair Shuttleworth. I was a little shocked at first when I read the motion, just because it is sort of a 1/3. I mean, it's, you know, it's quite an increase. But in light that we have had this recommended, there are true benefits coming out of this. I am in full support.
Vice Chair Harrison.
Thank you. And through you, Madam Chair, just a confirmation that this motion in no way impacts budget amounts and budget spends. Rather, it impacts the method of payment for different things. And as Trustee Grabentz pointed out, and you said, that increases efficiencies, and there are other benefits that go along with it. So,
and for the chair to the vice chair, yes, that's correct. The purchases have to be within budget. So all the controls are in place. The manner in which the departments, schools pay for purchases is the only difference. It is not impacting how much their budget is. So everything still stays in place. The reason we are looking for an increase, as you mentioned, 50% increase, Trustee Gerbens, is out of convenience to only continue to pay it once a month. And we are seeing that between April and June, and sometimes the August ones can be quite substantial, and we've had to pay more often. So we are trying to forecast what that level might be, where we are not, we don't have to process it twice in a year and have some of the cards default just because there isn't availability in terms of the limit. So it does not impact the operational budget, and it does not impact the controls in place in terms of a pre-approval of transactions being within budget, and then the receipt and approval at the end when the payment is made.
Thank you very much. Are there any other questions? All right, if you can please cast your votes. Thank you.
In support.
Thank you, Trustee Amos. Thank you very much, and that again carries unanimously. Thank you, Superintendent Ngoy, for your explanation. Okay, we are now up to item 7.0, communication to the board. So there are no items for action for September 21st, which is our next board meeting. Are there any notices of motion for this evening? Seeing none?
There is
sorry.
one underneath.
Sorry, Trustee Amos.
There is one listed there on the sheet, I believe.
Yes, I'm sorry. 7.3.1, school naming policy and governance procedure, board considerations. Sorry, Trustee Amos, report number 22096. Would you like to speak to this?
Yes, please. I'm not going to go on screen because I'm fading in and out, and I fear if I go on screen, you may just lose me altogether. So my apologies. This report is here on behalf of the School Naming and Renaming Policy and Procedure Committee that was struck back in June, I believe it was, or May. And we have gone through the policy and procedures, and we have made some suggestions for movement. But this is here before you because the committee basically has came to a stalemate on whether names should, school names should be after people or not. So we felt that this was not a decision that our committee could be making, and that we felt that it should be something the whole board should be part of. So in order for that to happen, we felt that it should be, we probably would need to have a facilitated session with some information involved to have a thorough discussion on the topic. So that's where this motion is coming from. And the other people on the committee were Trustee Gray, Trustee Daniele, Trustee Oliver, and Trustee Rocha. So if any of them would like to speak to it as well, please feel free. That's where this motion is coming from. And if appropriate, I'd like to waive the rules for it to be actually considered tonight.
Okay, so why don't we put the original motion on the floor? Trustee
Point of
Collard.
order, you would have to suspend the rules before putting the motion on the floor. So
All right,
the
so
motion would be to suspend the rules.
So Trustee Amos, you're putting a motion on the floor to suspend the rules.
Yes, that's correct.
Do we have a seconder? Trustee Oliver. All right, so to suspend the rules, we need a 2/3 vote. So is there any discussion or debate before we move to the voting? Trustee Daniele.
Thank you very much. I'm a member of the committee, and this actually came as a surprise to me. So I'm not prepared to discuss it tonight. I don't really see how it coming to us in 2 weeks and giving us an opportunity to prepare would be a detriment. So I will not be supporting the motion to suspend the rules because I do feel that I'm simply not, with the first week of school and everything else that's been going on, I don't believe that we would do ourselves a service by dealing with it tonight instead of in 2 weeks.
May I respond?
Yes, you may.
The reason it is here tonight and the reason I'm asking to suspend the rules is because for every 2 weeks we delay, we will put us that much further behind when we can actually have this facilitated session to be organized before the end of this term. And we were hoping to maybe do something by the end of September. And if we leave it much later than tonight, we're really going to not have a lot of time to find a facilitator to be able to have that discussion. But I will go to the will of the board.
Trustee Daniele.
Follow up, please. Yes, I'm sorry. Unfortunately, with all the, it was not clear to me what was being asked. If this is simply a motion to investigate and implement a facilitator, that does change it for me. I did not quite clearly understand what Trustee Amos was asking, so I withdraw my objections if that is simply what we are doing this evening.
So, Trustee Amos, can I just clarify that you are wanting to waive the rules to put on the floor the motion to have a facilitator come, not to vote on the naming procedure, correct?
That is correct.
Great,
It is
thank
for
you.
the motion that was included with the package.
Correct. Yes, thank you very much. Trustee Collard.
Thank you. I will not be able to support the motion to suspend the rules, specifically for the reason that the report does not give significant detail as to why we're having the training session planned. There's like one paragraph that explains why we would be having the session, and I would much prefer for us to have a conversation about this at committee of the whole before planning to spend dollars on professional development that nobody anticipated prior to this evening. I don't have enough information to support looking for a facilitator for professional development that has not been discussed by this board. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Amos? Okay.
I don't know what to say in response. All I'm saying is that we're under a bit of a timeline, and I believe that I asked the director's office to start doing some searching around for us prior to us making this decision to see if there were people available. But until the motion is actually approved, we cannot move much forward with this.
May I follow up?
Yep.
We have had no motion from this Board of Trustees to pursue even looking into this, and trustees do not have the power to individually ask for that time of staff to be spent on something that has not been passed by the board. I strongly object to this, and I will not support this motion.
Thank you. Trustee Grabentz.
Yes, through the chair. I am at this point not prepared to support the motion to suspend the rules. I think that we need a little more information before considering this. If we did suspend the rules this evening, I wouldn't be supporting it in the way it is right now. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Trustee Trustee Gray.
Thank you, through the chair. Just to be clear then that if this was not to be supported, the waiving of the rules, then that we would next see this, perhaps a discussion be included in the agenda for the next committee of the whole. Is that correct?
That would be correct.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
Vice Chair Harrison.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair, Trustee Gray scooped me a bit there, and I just want to confirm that that if it's the will of the board, we can add it to that draft agenda that was circulated earlier this afternoon, so it makes it on there. Because it seems to me there's two things happening here. One is the like the stalemate, if you want to call it that there's people entrenched with different perspectives, which are not all the same. And the group wants to open it up to the rest of the board. So I think that amongst ourselves, we'll be able to have that conversation and see if people can come to some kind of resolution. And then maybe part B, if that doesn't happen, we can scope out what is needed. Like, I'm not sure if it's a subject matter expert or a facilitator or both or none. So maybe it's a sort of a half-hour discussion or so on that agenda. And I saw nods, so I think we can go that way. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Can I speak again?
Yes, you may. Trustee Amos.
Thank you. I had brought this forward on behalf of the School Naming and Renaming Committee, and I'm quite prepared to withdraw my proposal to suspend the rules if the will of the board is to move forward with it going to committee of the whole. But this was something that the committee had discussed, and so that's the only reason it was here.
So I'm seeing nods for it to go through to not suspend the rules and leave it to committee of the whole. So you would like to withdraw that motion to suspend the rules, Trustee Amos?
I can do that, yes.
All right, so we need a second. Oh, Trustee Oliver, would you also like to withdraw that motion?
Yes, I will.
All right, so we'll withdraw the motion to suspend the rules, and we will leave this for discussion at committee of the whole. Vice Chair Harrison.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair, I believe procedurally we're good just to leave it because the other motion didn't make it on the floor, so we don't need to refer or any of that stuff. Yeah, okay.
All right, thank you so much, Trustee Amos. Okay, we are now up to item 7.4, the director's report. Director Ennis, I'll pass the floor over to you.
Thank you so much, Chair Shuttleworth. Good evening again, trustees.
Point of personal privilege, could we have a 5-minute break?
Sure. Shall we take a quick break? Yes. So we'll resume. We'll take a 5-minute recess and come back at 8. That clock's not right. 8:05. At 8:05. All right. Thank you. All right, thank you for indulging that quick break. Again, we are back with the director's report. So I'm going to pass the floor over to Director Ennis.
Thank you so much, Chair Shuttleworth, and good evening once again, everyone. Yesterday, the Halton District School Board welcomed more than 66,000 students and 2,955 elementary teachers, 1,400 secondary teachers, 2,500 non-teaching and support staff, and more than 200 principal and vice principals to a new school year. I had the privilege, along with our Human Rights and Equity Advisor, Pardeep Singh Nagra, of starting the day with more than 1,200 students and countless parents, guardians, and families at Viola Desmond in Milton. The atmosphere was electric, and the excitement was contagious. Of the many moments that stood out for me was seeing our caretaker of Viola Desmond, John Hamilton, an Inspire Award recipient, on his knees, comforting a young student who was entering school for the first time and clearly missing their loved ones. This act of kindness, I strongly believe, exemplifies the HDSB as a caring community. As we enter this school year with a lot of optimism and hope, we have optimism and hope for a better school year than the past three. While challenges remain, the beginning of a new school year is a time of renewal and fresh starts. Excited students enrolling in kindergarten for the first time, the anticipation of older students starting high school, unsure of what awaits them, and the delight of students entering their final and graduating year, excited about the future. We are grateful for the ongoing support of our Board of Trustees, who continue to lead in a very collaborative and supportive environment where the senior team and trustees share a sense of pride working together in alignment with our multi-year strategic plan. We know the pending elections next month will bring expected changes, but we are confident and we are comforted that this will not alter our shared commitments or our relationships to students and families and our mutual respect for each other. During the summer, the board's we committed more than $25 million in renewal and upgrades to schools and buildings, including roofing, windows, ventilation, lighting, accessibility upgrades, repaving of parking lots, and much more. The HDSB has more than $46 million worth of capital renewal and maintenance ongoing in more than 200 projects across the district. We are proud to welcome students, staff, and families to the new Rattlesnake Point Public School in Milton. The new $18.7 million school will accommodate more than 900 students, over 80,000 square feet in a 3-story accessible building with 21st century teaching layouts. It has air conditioning that is individually controlled by classrooms, double gym, 50 bike parking spaces, bus lay-by, and student drop-off areas. It also has 5 childcare rooms that will accommodate 88 students, as well as 8 kindergarten classrooms. To support our students' sense of belonging and connectedness, our mental health services were provided. Mental health services were provided during the summer through identity-based therapeutic groups by social workers, child and youth counselors, and community service providers. The HDSB understands the importance of positive mental health as students embark on a new school year. Mental health and well-being videos for parents and guardians were released in August to support the student mental health, belonging, and connectedness ahead of the new school year. This area of focus continues to be a high priority for the Halton District School Board. Parents and guardians can visit the new HDSB Welcome to a New School Year webpage for helpful tips and resources to make the beginning of the school year as smooth as possible. As a board, we're committed to helping students continue their journey and joy of learning through focused interventions and strong instructional practices in all of our classrooms and schools. Also this summer, we made a concerted effort to provide resources and supports to students and families to help them prepare for the upcoming school year. We provided literacy and mathematics resources for families to support student achievement and enhance learning. These resources include talk and play-based activities, as well as tips to provide engaging and authentic learning opportunities for students at home and in the community. In the Halton District School Board, we continue to lean on and utilize our commitments to the multi-year strategic plan to set direction and prioritize the collective actions of all stakeholders to ensure our efforts as an organization are aligned and coordinated. The Human Rights, Equity, Action, and Accountability Plan, The Way Forward, reflects our commitment to create and maintain safe, inclusive learning and working environments free from discrimination and hate for students, families, staff, and members of the public. We must continue to be vigilant in our efforts to create a more inclusive and equitable school system. In July, I had the opportunity to visit HDSB students in a program called the 100 Strong Mentoring Program that supported students who identified as Black, and students were there being inspired and provided the tools to achieve their maximum potential in education and life skills. This was held at the University of Toronto, Mississauga campus, where students from the Halton Catholic as well as the Peel District School Board were there, as well as our students. We're also very proud to welcome 4 new superintendents to the senior administrative team. We have Jennifer Fowler, Nick Frankovic, Jenny Petko, and Jonathan Schoss. And we also have new Associate Director, Tina Salmini. We also welcome to the senior ranks Pardeep Singh Nagra as our HDSB's Human Rights Equity Advisor. So please join me in welcoming them all to their first board meeting. You know, the team that we had last year was a tremendous team, and I believe that the new folks that have joined us have fit in very nicely, and we're going to have a wonderful year. So Tina and I are looking forward to working with this team as well. All right, so where was I? we all share the same vision and commitment to a safe, inclusive learning and working environments free from discrimination for students, families, staff, and members of the public. This approach will continue to be woven around our multi-year strategic plan, which sets direction and prioritizes the collective actions of all stakeholders to ensure our efforts as an organization are aligned and coordinated. The health and safety of our students and staff has always been and will continue to be our top priority. Information about COVID-19 health and safety measures for this school year have been shared with families and staff. We continue to take our lead from the province and our medical officers of health as we navigate the best course of action for our students and our families. All students have a strong desire to belong to a community, and it is my hope that every school within the HDSB can provide a learning environment where each student, in all of their glorious identities, will experience a sense of belonging, care, and community. Some highlights from the summer. We had summer school and adult continuing education. Over 4,700 secondary students and 700 elementary students enrolled in summer school. We had 591 elementary students enrolled in international and indigenous language programs. Languages include Arabic, Hindi, Mandarin, Punjabi, Spanish, German, Tagalog, Korean, Mandarin, and Urdu. We have 265 adult students registered in our LINK ESL courses and 256 students registered in our FSL courses. Our Welcome Center, more than 100 students in grade 4 to 8 access the summer tutoring program through the Welcome Center, which help them with literacy, numeracy, and foundational skills. More than 85% spoke an additional language to English, so our students are coming very rich in language. The data shows improved confidence in literacy and numeracy skills. In special education, 550 students with special education needs access our specialized summer program, as well as our professional services staff completed 80 language and psychoeducational assessments. Approximately 1,300 students in kindergarten to grade 2 accessed the Kids Can Camp to develop their math and literacy skills. Students engage in math activities to help build a deeper understanding of mathematics and to enhance confidence in number sense and problem solving. Students engage in small group instruction and tasks to maintain and deepen their literacy skills. Students reported gains in all areas of attitude, engagement, and confidence in reading, writing, and math. Teachers reported growth of more than 80% fluency in reading comprehension, math communication, in thinking, problem solving, addition, subtraction, and mental math. Families reported an 87% growth in their child's use of technology through reading, writing, and math. Students in grade 3 to 5 engage in a 3-week virtual learning program intended for students who would benefit from additional opportunities to build, consolidate, and further develop their literacy and mathematics skills. Families reported an 87% growth in their students' use of technology in reading, writing, and math. Other sessions included grades 7 to 8 ESL, grades 6, 7, and 8 maths, grades 6, 7, and 8 literacy. Some student feedback for you. One student said, the most helpful part of summer school was that it reinforced already learned concepts and left time to reflect on what I learned and think critically. It helped me to keep up with numeracy and train my brain before high school. Another student said, I think learning the new strategies on multiplication and division was most helpful to me, and also getting a better understanding of fraction. Another, working together as a group helped me because we got to share ideas, and it made me think about that particular idea. It also refreshed my brain, said another, and made me more confident in going to high school. So students overall saw this as a very positive experience. We are ready, trustees and staff and parents and families, and we are excited to provide students with an exceptional educational experience, one that is uplifting and fulfilling, and one that honors their unique and collective identities. Together, we will continue to learn, to grow, and inspire. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Director Ennis. First one? So
Yes.
You also have a student transportation update to tell us about.
Thank you. Before I go to student transportation, I also need to tell you that in the summer, we also had some student mental health and well-being, and we had 74 students who participated in virtual groups for stress and coping, neurodiversity, anxiety/depression, and 4 specific identity groups: Asian Wellness, Indigenous Circles, Affirm, which is the LGBTQ+, and PSN Alliance. And then the mental health and well-being page on the HDSB was revised and updated to include refreshed resources for families. So that's also included there. And I'll turn it over to Superintendent Nguyen for the student transportation update.
Thank you. And as it is with every start of the year, it is a challenging, both in terms of the shortages, in terms of bus drivers, as well as new routes, families and students getting acclaimed with their routes, and the drivers, wrap up of the summer construction on our roads, and just a lot more traffic around our schools than we have during other times of the school year. So we find the school areas are more congested in the first few weeks. And given that, we are seeing some bus delays, and you've seen the news releases, the communication to parents, to schools. We are in better shape than we have been last year, so we have less open routes. We have 37 open routes compared to 44 last year, and we have more drivers in training. So we have 16 drivers in training and 16 on the substitute list. So almost all of them are covered between these numbers, and the remaining are covered by the existing drivers. A driver that is picking up another route in order to make that happen, of course, will be leading to a delayed bus. But we are very fortunate that our existing drivers do jump in and help with the buses, with the routes that are open. So we have the same process and the same approach as last year. We are hopeful that in this year we will not see as many delays and as many shortages. However, we are continuing to be diligent, and the bus companies are continuing to recruit and train drivers so that there's additional substitutes. With regards to courtesy seats, this year we've opened them up from the beginning, as we have done pre-pandemic. We have seen a 35% increase in the requests from the time before the pandemic. We are busing more students than we have before. We have more stops and more vehicles on the road. And we've also seen quite an increase in the request for courtesy seats. The Halton Student Transportation Services has approved as many as they could by the end of August, based on the eligibility and the registrations that we've had to date. And we have approved about 809 seats out of about 3,200. through the next few weeks, as the registrations are being confirmed, the eligibility, the opt-out option for parents for which students are not planning on taking the bus, there may be additional courtesy seats available at the school level. So that will be through the principal and in October. So as of right now, those were the maximum amount of numbers that we could accommodate given the registrations and the eligibility for buses. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Trustee Grabentz has a question.
Yes, through you, Chair Shuttleworth. I just wanted to commend Halton Student Transportation Services for doing the best they can, but also being able to move up that schedule of allowing courtesy seat students who are courtesy seat users for some of them to be able to start even at the beginning of the school year. It is often a real challenge for parents to do that time period from September to October. And so as a trustee, I get fewer calls because students are being accommodated earlier, and I know that takes a lot of work for that to happen. So please send my thanks to HSTS for the hard work that they do around transportation and courtesy seats.
Thank you. There are no other questions?
Thank you, Chair Shuttleworth. I'm going to ask Superintendent Fowler to speak to health and safety measures.
Thank you, Director Ennis, and through your Chair Shuttleworth, I would like to provide an update on COVID-19 related health and safety measures in our schools. So as always, COVID-19 health and safety protocols for the Halton District School Board are based on direction from the Ontario Ministry of Education and in consultation with Halton Region Public Health. To date, we've received guidance from both the Ministry of Education through an August 5th memo and a revised back-to-school guidance from Halton Region Public Health that came out on September the 1st. This information has already been shared with our families and staff, and we will continue to provide updates and changes as they continue to be made. The most recent update and information can always be found on the Halton District School Board COVID-19 page, and we do definitely direct families to that because it is the most current and up-to-date information. So we're very pleased tonight to share with you a very high-level overview of the enhanced safety precautions that are designed to keep our students and staff safe, as well as our schools open. So sharing details very briefly, screening. First of all, the COVID-19 screener has been updated to reflect changes that were created last week on Thursday, September 1st. They went into effect. And so we do recommend that families follow the guidance on the screening tool. So when you do get that red X, depending on the symptom, it's important that you read below and notice that there are different expectations for returning to school located there. And so we'll be asking our schools and families to follow those guidelines. They are very specific, and hopefully that's, again, the most up-to-date place to get your details. As always, schools will keep Google Classrooms as well as Brightspace for secondary students up to date so that any students that are having to isolate at home will have full access to their programming and they'll be able to keep up with their classwork before they return. In terms of masking, as you know, the Halton District School Board is a very respectful and mask-friendly board, and we are going to actively promote these welcoming and inclusive practices. We do know that masking is optional for students and staff, and that's both in the school and on the bus. However, we do recommend or encourage masking in indoor settings and crowded spaces, so that has been communicated with our families. For anyone who chooses to wear a mask, the board will continue to provide access to high-quality PPE, and that will be made available for both students and staff. It is important to note the distinction that in some cases masking is still required, and this would be through guidance from from Halton Region Public Health. And we would like to say that individuals who experience symptoms of COVID-19, so they were actually symptomatic, they need to wear a mask for 10 days after their symptoms started. And for individuals who tested positive for COVID-19, regardless of whether they experience symptoms or not, they should also, again, wear a mask for 10 days after their test date. And all symptom-free, asymptomatic close contacts of people who have tested positive for COVID-19 should also wear a mask for 10 days. So these rules are in place, and they will be communicated. They have been communicated to families and to staff, so hopefully that will be something that you do notice. There will be students wearing masks, students and staff in the buildings. We're also continuing to promote hand hygiene, and schools will promote hand washing, and again, hand sanitizer is in abundance and provided, and students are encouraged to use it upon entry and exit and wherever else it's needed. In terms of vaccinations, this is another really great partnership with Halton Region Public Health. We're looking to ensure that we're communicating information about updated vaccination information. As you may have read, boosters for children between 5 and 11 are now available. So that information went out to families this week. We're also pleased to report that schools are fully open for business. As you probably saw many times on Twitter yesterday, or maybe you read about it or watched the news, schools are happy, open spaces, and it's just such a refreshing and exciting return. I'm actually attending an open house this Thursday at Hawthorne Village Public Schools. So open houses are taking place, fully open to business. We've got some school fairs that are going to take place. Field trips, including overnights, are back on, and as well as intra and intramural activities are set to roll out. And so it is definitely a return to a more of a normal school year. And I know that many of our students and staff and families are very much looking forward to that. So moving forward, obviously, we will continue to monitor and follow guidelines with regards to any absences. So there, if you recall, there may have been a time where we updated a 30%. Now we're just supposed to watch and see if we notice any irregularities where we're seeing an increase in absences, at which time schools must report to Halton Region Public Health. And from there, Halton Region will make a decision as to whether they are communicating with families once they do an investigation. So there will be reporting, but it is only based on anomalies and not a particular number. And I think that's where I'll stop. I'm certainly happy to take any questions for clarification, as I anticipate there are some.
Thank you very much. And yes, there are some questions. We'll start with Trustee Daniele.
Thank you very much. And my personal thanks to Superintendent Fowler, who hit the ground running and has been answering my questions on this. But as per protocol, I will direct my question to Director Ennis so that he can direct it from there. Director Ennis, I am hearing increasingly from parents who have children that are susceptible to respiratory illnesses or vulnerable that are fully integrated into the classroom. And the concerns that they are raising is that we do not have a policy of reporting to parents when there is a COVID case within their class, and they're wondering what can be done about that. Because if their child is in that class and they've been exposed to COVID, obviously they would appreciate knowing about that, but under our public health guidelines through Halton Regional Health Department, that is not something that we're doing. And so I'm kind of wondering, is there something that we can, there are other school boards that have done that do send out a notice, just say, let you know there has been a COVID class, so that parents can make their own decisions as to the risk assessment for their children. And I'm wondering, why are we not doing that? And is there an opportunity for us to do that if we truly want to keep students safe within our classes?
Thank you for the question, Trustee Daniele. I'm going to ask Superintendent Fowler to expound.
Thank you, Director Ennis, and through you, Chair Shuttleworth. Trustee Daniele, thank you very much for the question. So I had communicated previously that reporting direction is a provincial guideline, and school boards will continue to adhere to the requirements for reporting to Halton Region Public Health, where there's a significant rise in absences. Schools, as we have discussed, will no longer send positive or presumed positive confirmation to families. And again, this was a provincial direction. And so we are going to continue to take our guidance from the provincial direction and the Ministry of Education. However, I certainly can take that question to our Halton Region partners, and I will certainly see if there is anything specific beyond that. But currently, right now, we are going to continue to follow the guidelines as set out by Halton Region Public Health. Thank you.
Just as a follow-up, I know that we have different connections through to the Ministry of Education, and I wonder if some of those discussions could happen with the Ministry of Education, either through your network or the network of chairs. And I know Trustee Shuttleworth, Chair Shuttleworth, that you were often on ministry calls. If it could be raised with the ministry, I totally understand where we're coming from, that we are adhering to the ministry guidelines. But I would hate to think that we would be hesitant to go further if we saw a need to protect students simply because it went beyond the ministry guidelines. So if this could be kicked up a notch to some of the people that would be able to make those changes, I would greatly appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Trustee Daniele. And yes, we have weekly phone calls with the minister. On September 1st was our last. Dr. Moore was there. His focus, again, was on the other preventative measures that are in the schools, focusing specifically on ventilation, making sure schools' ventilation systems are up and running. But I can certainly raise your concern at our next meeting. 100% for sure. Thank you. Thank you. Trustee Garretts.
Thank you. Through you to Director Ennis. There was mentioning of mask wearing after being symptomatic with COVID. And I'm just wondering, how is this going to be enforced? And also, what are the expectations of any of our students with special needs that have been symptomatic and are being asked to wear masks? How do we keep our students and our staff safe?
Thank you, Trustee Garretts. Again, I'm going to ask Superintendent Fowler to expound.
So thank you, Director Ennis, and through you, Chair Shuttleworth, to Trustee Garretts. So we do believe that our families, and we're very confident in our families in the Halton District School Board, that they will adhere to the guidelines as set out by the ministry as well as Halton Region Public Health. Because there's no direct reporting of COVID cases or symptoms, we won't necessarily know if a student is returning from having had COVID positive testing. We will certainly do our best to encourage all of our students that are required to wear the masks to continue to wear the masks as needed. And especially if a family, does reach out and say, can you make sure that my child is wearing their mask today? That would be something we could communicate to the teachers and then to the student. I do believe that for our students, we've seen a resilience beyond what we would have anticipated initially when COVID all started. And I do know that many of our students, especially including those with special education needs, definitely were able to and did wear their masks throughout the year when the mask mandate was in place. But certainly if there is a specific concern, or if we start to notice that there is a rise in absences due to COVID, and we think that it's something to do with masking, I'm sure that it is, again, an ongoing conversation with the ministry, with public health, and I'm certain that we'll see improved guidelines. But for now, this really is the direction that we have, and while that may not be the best answer, that's really where we're at. We have to trust that our families are following the guidelines, and we will continue to share those guidelines and to encourage people to follow them, and that's what we are committed to doing every time. Thank you.
Can we ensure that the guidelines are translated in several languages, please?
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Trustee Garretts, and I will connect with our communications department. That is a great idea. Thank you. We're actually looking to update a number of our posters or our communication pieces to families because of the changes. So I've been working closely with the communications team, and that will be something we'll definitely take back and do. I appreciate that idea. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Chair Harrison.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. This follows up on your last comment about communications to families. And one of the things that I often hear are just questions about the HVAC updates that have been undertaken. So, and in the minister call last week, he spoke that every board is required to post on their website the HVAC updates and capital renewals. And I would just note that we have 2 pages, one that has the ventilation and HVAC upgrades by school, and then there's also the HDSB Builds webpage, which has the CVRIS, which is COVID resilience infrastructure funding and how that's been spent in schools. So that might also be useful information for people to have so they can just go and kind of look up what's happened in their schools. Oh, just that to remind people that they can look there and find that information, because it is one of the safety measures that has been enhanced over the last bunch of years.
Thank you. I will definitely. Great. Thank you very much, Superintendent Fowler. There are no more questions.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Director Ennis, back to you.
Thank you so much, Chair Shuttleworth. The final item this evening is just a memoriam for a Victoria Karen, who was a special education resource teacher at James W. Hill in Oakville, who passed away in the spring. We didn't have an opportunity to honor her legacy and her support, a rich legacy, someone who is missed dearly by the James W. Hill community, her family and friends. And so if you would be kind enough to join me in a moment of silence for Victoria Karen and her family. Thank you very much. And that concludes my report for this evening. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Director Ennis. That brings us to 7.5, which is communication from the chair. As you can see, boards were very busy writing letters this summer. There are 2 from us regarding our Reimagine Forward campaign, and also the motion on student trustees being able to move motions. There were following from other boards as well on student trustee motions, and another topic of interest was executive compensation. But you can find a list of the letters written in your package, and that was the communication from the chair. Committee reports, and I'm going to pass it over to Vice Chair L. Harrison, who has a report on the Reimagine Forward platform and the community feedback she received, or we received.
Okay, thank you very much. And through you, Madam Chair, hopefully in brief, I'm presenting this report on behalf of the entire committee, Trustee Oliver, Chair Shuttleworth, Trustee Grabentz, and Trustee Reynolds, who collaborated on this report. And you'll remember that back in June, the board approved kind of a 3-part motion. The first one was that the chair send the Reimagine Forward report through to a number of parties, and that letter is contained in this particular agenda package. The second part of the motion was to that the subcommittee seek anecdotal information from people who participated in the initiative to see what they thought about the Bang the Table platform, so that we could consider that for future engagement activities. So in the spirit of continuous improvement. And so we did that, and we heard back that respondents were either happy or very happy with that platform. So that was great. They particularly liked or supported the submitting ideas feature of the platform, followed by the submitting stories and emails. And then we also had an open-ended question where we just asked for any other thoughts, and they were also very positive. People felt validated, honored, even unpopular views were listened to, they felt like. They wondered how the input will be used, which leads kind of to the next segment that we'll talk about briefly. And then they gave us some suggestions around the report. One of them was that it would be helpful to have greater demographic information to make sure that the respondents are truly representative and match up with the demographics of the system. But we didn't collect that information this time, so we don't know what the answer there is, just that we did have a diversity of views. So it's something to keep in mind for future initiatives. And then the third part of the motion was that the director was requested to report back by January 2023 after having reviewed that report and with any potential policy or operational kind of implications there. And so I think there's been an email with a request that possibly consideration be given to reporting before the end of this term. So right at the end would be in November if that's possible. So I would look to the director and associate director for response on that.
Thank you, Vice Chair L. Harrison, and through the chair. We have already begun a small group conversation about what the response will be like. We are going to have further meetings to look at it more fully, and certainly we believe it would be lovely to be able to have a response with yourself, Vice Chair L. Harrison, as one of the leaders of the Reimagine Forward. So we are going to be working towards that end, we've started the conversation. We're just in the early stages, but we're hopeful that we can get something. I think it would be a nice way to honor the great work done by all the trustees of this current board, and so that's what we'll be working towards.
Thank you very much. That sounds really great if it's possible. And I just wanted to close off by saying, this is all about supporting staff and students for the primary focus here. And I just want to say that student artist Min Yi, her art was used with permission on this project, and it appears in the report as well. And you can see it up here in person in the boardroom, and it was originally created for a multi-year plan. So last word is in honor of her artwork. Thank you. I'll take any questions.
Thank you, Vice Chair Al Harrison. Does anybody have any questions for the committee? Seeing none, again, I'd just like to reiterate Vice Chair Al Harrison's request to try and have, I know that lots of the members of this board are not returning to the board next term, and I think with all the work that they've done, it would be really nice that they were able to be a part of listening to the feedback. So if all possible, it would be great to have that by November. So thank you so much for entertaining that ask. Okay, we are now up to item 7.7, trustee questions and comments. Do any trustees in the room have any questions? Trustee Collard.
Thank you. Through you to all trustees. I just wanted to report that this summer, Trustee Rocha and I attended the Canadian School Board Association's annual conference. The agenda was jam-packed with amazing keynote speakers, presentations, and workshops. But I want to tell you about two of those presentations tonight. The first one was about consent culture. The Peel Board provided a very detailed outline of how they are engaging staff and students by addressing their concerns about sexism, misogyny, and the concept of consent. Our student trustees mentioned their concerns regarding sexual harassment in their report this evening, and I believe we would be wise to address these concerns as soon as possible. The second presentation was presented by Chief Darcy Bear from the Dakota First Nation. He described how he had worked with a local school board to ensure equitable funding for the schools on reserve. After a journey of 11 years, their cooperative efforts have resulted in a partnership with the federal government to bring the reserve school funding to an equitable level. Not only that, but the local school board now offers opportunities for their students to learn about Indigenous culture and languages. These presentations were inspiring, and I wanted to share them with all of you this evening. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Trustee Collard. Trustee Gray.
Thank you very much. Through the chair to the director. It's very exciting as we begin a new school year. And I wondered if you could please share with the board the status of the hires for educational staff for this school year, including those for contract and those for occasional. Are we in a good position with our staff hires? Thank you.
Thank you. Through the chair, I'm going to ask Superintendent Taha to respond.
Thank you, Director Ennis. Through you, Chair Shuttleworth, to Trustee Gray. Obviously, we are in the process of finalizing the school organizations of our permanent staff. But what I could say that 99.9% of our vacancies have been filled permanently. And obviously there are always those late arrivals of leaves that we may have to deal with at the last moment. As far as occasional staff is concerned, as you can guess, the last couple of years have been extremely challenging for all of Ontario, for the entire country in terms of staff shortages and absenteeism and so on and so forth. We have learned through that process that you really need to have an ongoing recruitment process. You have to recruit faster than anybody else, given the staff shortages. You need to onboard as quickly as possible and make job offers as quickly as possible. And that's what we've done in the last couple of years. We continue to do. What I can say is, and it's early on, that the last couple of days have shown that our fill rates are extremely healthy. In fact, I can say that 100% of our elementary, for instance, vacancies were filled in the last couple of days, very early on. Our supply lists, be it on the teaching side or the education worker side, are very healthy. We have in excess of 1,700 occasional teachers ready to work for us, and those are active teachers, not on leave of absence or working elsewhere, and hopefully that will continue to be the case. Over 1,500 occasional staff who are education workers. We're still, in my opinion, a board that continues to attract a lot of interest in terms of staff that want to work for us. We'll keep an eye on it. And the other thing that we've learned is that we need to be very nimble also. So in a moment of crisis where we have to deploy itinerants, for example, we will resort to that effort if we need to. But I'm confident that we will have healthy rates of presenteeism, let's put it that way, and that we will weather any storm that comes our way.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Trustee Collard.
Thank you. You may or may not know that Southeast Burlington has experienced an issue with coyotes over the last couple of weeks, and there was an animal control officer that was present at Pineland Public School last week and held a public meeting outside the school advising parents and community members of safety measures they could take for their families in order to avoid any interaction with the coyotes. A parent has written to me and asked if we might be able to invite such an animal control officer to the schools in the area so that all the families can benefit from this knowledge and perhaps have some information going home to families about how to be safe in areas where coyotes are known to live. So I'm just putting that forward as a question. Thank you.
Go ahead. Yeah, through the chair to Trustee Collard, we have a communication that we have put out in the past when this has arisen, so I can certainly connect with the communications department to make sure that that's up to date and perhaps connect with such an officer, for any more recent information. So we update that and we can get that out.
Thank you very much for that.
There are no more questions. Oh, yeah, Vice Chair Al Harrison.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair, it follows up on Trustee Gray's question just regarding hiring processes. And in the minister's recent memo, he spoke of funding to school boards to hire graduation coaches, particularly related to Indigenous and Black students. And so I just wonder where we're at with that.
Thank you for the question. I'm going to ask Superintendent Petko to speak to that.
Thank you, Director Ennis, and through Vice Chair Al Harrison. In response to that, we actually already have 2 Black graduation coaches in place, and they've been actually working with schools all of last year, and they will continue. We also recently, I'm happy to share that we did hire 2 Indigenous who self-identify as such student coordinators as well, who were hired in the 11th hour in August. So really pleased they're off and running with our team. And we now have a complement of 4 program leaders in Indigenous rights and education as well. So we're very excited. Our team has expanded, and it's wonderful because it now speaks to the significance that we have placed as a board for the work of Indigenous rights and education for our system, and centering the needs that we always knew was there through the data that we collected. But so we're off and running. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, thank you very much. And Chair Shuttleworth, I just have a committee of the whole announcement. Sure. Okay, thank you very much. So I just want to, I sent everybody an email today just confirming that committee of the whole is meeting next Wednesday in this boardroom. And if you could just take a look, and we did have one additional agenda item come up today in the discussion around the naming committee work. But if there is anything else, if you could let us know, ideally by about noon tomorrow, that will make sure that we can get all the materials out to everybody in advance. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Al Harrison. Trustee Garretts.
Thank you. Through you to Director Ennis. I'm wondering if we could soon get an update on some of the construction projects that are happening in our Milton schools and around our Milton schools, i.e. the Irma Colson playground construction, etc. Not asking for it tonight, but if we could get it pretty soon, just I've got some people asking, my constituents. So.
Thank you for that, Trustee Garretts. We'll absolutely work on that for our next meeting.
Great, thank you very much. And there are no further questions, which brings us to public questions. So on the HDSB website, there is a button on the live stream page that there is a link at the bottom to allow members of the public to ask questions of the board. Questions received may be answered during this meeting, particularly those related to agenda items, or at the following meeting at the discretion of the chair. For efficiency, multiple questions received that are similar in nature may be grouped together at the discretion of the chair and/or vice chair. Questions will not be attributed. When necessary, a notation will be made that multiple people ask the same question. Any questions that contain language that is hateful or discriminatory will not be considered. Vice Chair Al Harrison, have we had any questions submitted this evening?
Madam Chair, we did have a question submitted about the timing of the meeting, and I wrote back directly to say that we start public session at 7 and try to wrap up at 10. By 10.
Wonderful. That was it? Yes. Great. So don't forget, everybody out there, there are several ways to have your voice heard at the board. There is, of course, the question and answer portion here where you can submit your questions online. You may choose to delegate the board, but probably the best and most direct route is to contact your local trustee. Trustee contact details are available on the HDSB website. And with that, we are on to 8.0, which is our adjournment. So thank you so much, everyone, for being so engaged in our meeting this evening. Like the director, I've been fortunate enough to pop into a couple schools with a superintendent and see all the wonderful, happy, joyful faces of the children returning to schools. It's so wonderful to see those smiles and be able to be back at school. I'm looking forward to a great school in all our schools, supported by the wonderful staff who have gone above and beyond to start this year off in many great ways. And with that, our agenda is now exhausted, and I call this meeting adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone.